So NBA Summer League is in full effect right now, which means it's the perfect time to overreact. And that includes picking MIPs, or Most Improved Players, for every team next season, including, surprisingly, some rookies. So starting off with the 76ers, this one is not so much of a surprising one. It's not a rookie, it's Paul George. I think he's going to be energized playing for a team that he actually wants to play for this year. A lot of the time, last time, it seemed like he was disinterested in playing for the Clippers. He's going to try to win a championship with the 76ers. He averaged, I think, 22, 5, and 3 last year, and I think that comes up for sure. He was still an all-star last year, but he's going to be more energized, excited to play with Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid. So my pick for the 76ers is Paul George, who just recently signed with them. Next, for the Washington Wizards. This one was a bit a tough one, I'm gonna admit. I was in between Alex Sarr and Jordan Poole. I might be a little bit biased on Jordan Poole because he was a Warrior, but I think that he's gonna be most improved this year because he averaged 17 points per game last year. He wasn't efficient. He shot 32%, I think, from 3, 49% from the field. So a lot of people are turned off by his large contract, but I think that he's definitely gonna get better because you can't get really worse than what he was doing last season. Now, the reason I was in between him and Alex Sarr is because Alex Sarr has not looked good in Summer League so far, and I think that it's really not good to react to a rookie doing bad in Summer League because a lot of the times people have struggled and then done well in the regular season. So I was in between him and Alex Sarr, but we just haven't seen enough of Alex Sarr yet to see that he's really going to be most improved. Next, we have the Atlanta Hawks, and my pick is Dyson Daniels. He just got traded from New Orleans to Atlanta in the DeJounte Murray trade, and I think that his defense is really going to shine next to Trae Young. If I were Atlanta, I would start him next to Trae Young and give him all the minutes next to him because he only got like 22 minutes or so with the New Orleans Pelicans, but I think he should get definitely more with Atlanta. Try to let his offense grow a little bit next to Trae Young because he's going to have more opportunity. So my pick is Dyson Daniels. I think he's going to take that next leap. Next up, for the Cleveland Cavaliers. This one is also a bit of a tough one because a lot of their team is the same except for like rookies like Jalen Tyson, but I did pick Darius Garland, and the reason is his name has been in a lot of trade rumors recently. He only averaged 18 points per game last season, only played 57 games. There's lots of reasons to think that he's going to go back up to that 21 points per game or so, and I think that he's definitely going to be determined to have a better season this year than he did last season. He was an all-star in, I think, the 2021-2022 season, so I think he's definitely going to go back up to that level. So my pick, even though there's not an obvious one here for the Cleveland Cavaliers, is Darius Garland. Detroit Pistons. Alright, so I'm going to be honest, there's not a lot of players on this team that I know about because a lot of the team is always just switching. There's a lot of young players. But I am going to pick Jaden Ivey because I think he had a little bit of a down year last season from his rookie year. In his rookie year, everyone was really excited because he averaged 16 points per game. He shot, I think, 45% from 2 and 34% from 3. And then last season, everything was down. His 3-point shooting, his 2-point shooting, his assists, everything was down. So I think that he's definitely going to be better this year. I think last year was that year 2 slump. So my pick is Jaden Ivey. Indiana, one of the most exciting young teams in the league. Really excited to watch them next season. My pick for them is Andrew Nembhard. Now, he actually averaged less points than he did in his rookie season, only about 9 points per game, so slightly less than what he averaged in his first season, but watching him in the playoffs, the eye test showed me that he's ready for that next step, and I really think that he's going to take it with the Pacers. He's going to get more minutes now that he really shined in the playoffs. I don't remember what his exact stats were in the playoffs, but I just remember him cooking against every team that he went against. So my pick is Andrew Nembhard, but of course it's not very clear because there's a lot of young players on the Pacers that are getting better every year. Maybe some of the rookies show out, so we'll see. But for me, I really like Andrew Nembhard, and I think he's going to play really well next season. Next up, we have the Milwaukee Bucks, another tough one because they didn't really change much of their team, so it's not like there's like a new player coming in that is going to really play well because of a change in scenery, but I think I'm going to choose Chris Middleton because he is getting older, and that could be part of his regression from when they won a championship, but I think it's also because he was injured and he's been adjusting from that injury, not been playing that much, only like 33 games and 55 games in the last 2 seasons. So my pick is Chris Middleton. I think he's going to come back up to that 20 points per game. The Bucks really need him to come back up to those 20 points per game in order to be a really good team and compete with the rest of the Eastern Conference juggernauts like the Boston Celtics, the New York Knicks, other teams. Okay, so next up we have the Toronto Raptors, and they have a bunch of young players on their team like Grady and Scotty Barnes, so I could easily pick them, but instead I'm going to go with Bruce Brown. And the reason was he was just traded from the Indiana Pacers to Toronto Raptors, and he had kind of like a down year. He didn't really play that well. He didn't really fit in as much. He's been in trade rumors, so if he doesn't get traded, I really think that he has nowhere better to go than up. So I'm going to say Bruce Brown for the Toronto Raptors, but this one, there could be so many young players that you could choose. It doesn't really matter, but Bruce Brown. All right, Dallas Mavericks. This one, I don't think there's a better answer than Klay Thompson. He struggled last year in Golden State to be consistent. I mean, he had games where he was really, really good, shot the ball amazingly, but of course we all know about the play-in game where he went 0 for 10. So we can get that version of Klay, or we can get the energized, motivated version of Klay. And I think that he even said himself that a change of scenery is going to be doing him so good. For the Dallas Mavericks, they're probably going to get a better version of Klay than we got in Golden State. So I think that Klay is going to be so much better, so much more ready and motivated to play with the Dallas Mavericks. He's probably the best option for the Dallas Mavericks, the most obvious option. Denver Nuggets. So for this one, I'm going to go with Russell Westbrook. And now he's not officially on the Denver Nuggets yet. I think he's still on the Utah Jazz, but he's expected to sign with them after agreeing to a buyout with the Utah Jazz. But he obviously didn't fit anymore in LA with the Clippers. So I think he's also, again, another tale of he's going to be more motivated, more energized to play with the Denver Nuggets. It's an interesting fit with Denver. If you asked me where he was going to be last season, I would have never said Denver because that's just so random. But it just gained steam, and all of a sudden he's going to be playing with them. He was just in the running for Sixth Man of the Year, so I really think he's going to help them a lot. He is older, he's getting older every single year, but Russ is still Russ, and we know he's a triple-double machine. He's going to play really, really well with Denver, is my prediction. The Memphis Grizzlies. I'm going to go with Marcus Smart. He was just Defensive Player of the Year 2 years ago, and he only played 20 games last year for the Memphis Grizzlies because he was injured. So I think that he's going to really take this as one of those years where he's going to prove how good he is, especially on the defensive side of the ball, because we know that. And he's going to try to get back to where he was when he was playing for the Celtics. So I really think that Marcus Smart is going to be the most improved player for the Memphis Grizzlies. Again, you could say Zach Edey, you could say G.G. Jackson because he's been so good. But I really think that Marcus Smart is looking to resurrect his career with the Grizzlies and show that the Celtics were wrong for honestly trading him away, even though they did win a championship. The Minnesota Timberwolves. This one is more of an obvious one. Anthony Edwards is my pick because I really think he's going to make that next step to competing for MVP because he was so good last season. He basically was one of the main reasons for propelling the Minnesota Timberwolves into almost championship contention. I mean, they made it to the conference finals. So I think Anthony Edwards is going to take that next leap. He's really motivated. He's playing for Team USA, and he even calls himself the alpha for Team USA. So I really think that he's one of the most confident players in the league. He's going to be super motivated to propel them into maybe even the finals this year. So Anthony Edwards, kind of an obvious pick. The San Antonio Spurs. I mean, you have to say Victor Wembanyama, right? I think the man is going to win Defensive Player of the Year this year, and you can't really say that him jumping from not winning that to winning that is not an improvement. So Victor Wembanyama for the San Antonio Spurs, there's not much else to say. Everyone else is kind of young on the team. I'm not really expecting that much of an improvement from anyone else. I'm sure there'll be some surprise improvement, but Victor Wembanyama, you just have to pick him. Next up, we have the Utah Jazz, and honestly, I'm going to pick John Collins, which might come as a surprise, but I think we all forget that he's only 26 years old. He's entering his prime, so really this is the time when he can really shine with the Utah Jazz, especially because he gets lots of opportunity. I mean, he's starting for the team. He only played 68 games last season, but that's still pretty good for someone that has been injured in the past before. He averaged 15 points per game. I really think that, especially if they trade Lowry, which might happen, might not happen, John Collins is going to get a lot more opportunity with the ball in his hands and probably play a little bit more minutes than he did last season, only 28 minutes last season. Next up, we have the Los Angeles Clippers. Okay, and this one might be a little controversial, but I'm going to go with Kawhi Leonard. I know everyone is down on him because he's always injured. He hasn't played well with Paul George previously and James Harden, but I really think that Kawhi Leonard is coming to the point where he's underrated. I mean, this guy just won Finals MVP for the Toronto Raptors when they won in 2019. He was one of their core players. He still has the talent a top 10 player in this league. I think Kawhi Leonard is going to come out with a vengeance, even though he's one of the quietest people. He's going to come out with a vengeance and really show the world that he is Kawhi Leonard and that he is one of the best players in the league still. Alright, the Suns. So this one is a bit of a tough one because I didn't want to pick one of the big three in KD, D-Book, and Bradley Beal, but I am going to end up picking Bradley Beal because a lot of people are down on him because of his contract. Like I said, some other players. This one is a bit controversial, I know. Bradley Beal only averaged 18 points per game last season, and that's one of the lowest since 2015-2016 when he averaged 17 points per game. And yes, he is the third option on this team, while in Washington he was a lot higher than that, but Bradley Beal is still Bradley Beal. He's still a bucket. And so I think that he only played 53 games last season. He's going to try to show that he can be a healthy and productive player, maybe get back to that all-star level. So I think this one is a bit controversial. I know it might not happen, but Bradley Beal for the Phoenix Suns. The Portland Trail Blazers. There's a lot of options for this team. You could say Donovan Clingan because he's been looking so good in Summer League. You could say Scoot Henderson, which I am going to ultimately say because he, off his rookie season, he only started 32 games and he played 62 games, which means they were bringing him off the bench for the majority of the time, or at least a decent amount of the time. So I think that they're probably going to start him this season and really give him more opportunity to show that he can be a core player of this team, especially if they trade Anthony Simons away, which he's been in some trade rumors. So I think that Scoot Henderson is going to take that year 1 to year 2 jump, just like Victor Wembanyama. I really do have that belief in him. Sacramento. Who else can I say other than DeMar DeRozan? Because he just got to the team, and if you've noticed a theme so far, I've been picking those new players on the team because I really think that change of scenery is a real thing in the NBA. I think that a lot of players play better when they are out of a tough situation that they might have been in before, and so DeMar DeRozan fits that perfectly. He was in Chicago, it didn't really work out with Zach LaVine and Nikola Vucevic, and now he gets to play with this fun, athletic, young team in De'Aaron Fox and Sabonis, Keegan Murray. So I really think that DeMar DeRozan's going to have a lot of fun. It's going to be one of the most clutch teams that he's going to play with. So excited for DeMar DeRozan. I really think he's going to be motivated and energized, to words that I associate with all of these new players going to new teams. I'm excited for him. Another exciting team, the New York Knicks. This one, I am of course going to pick Mikal Bridges. He will deny all he wants that he did not want to go to the New York Knicks, he didn't request a trade, that it wasn't his fault that he got traded to the New York Knicks. I don't believe that one bit. Mikal Bridges wanted to go to the New York Knicks. He's super excited to be there. He's gonna play extremely well. I can't remember if he was an all-star last year or he just missed it, but I would predict that he's an all-star this season. The New York Knicks are going to be fun to watch, and Mikal Bridges is going to be a huge part of it. Next up, we have the Pelicans. You probably think I'm going to choose DeJounte Murray, but you're wrong here. I actually think DeJounte's probably going to have the same stats, at least, that he had in Atlanta. It's just the fit is probably going to be better. But I think I'm going to pick Trey Murphy here because he's so young. He's still 23 years old, and he only played 57 games last year. He was a little bit injured. He didn't really take that year 3 leap that everyone was expecting from him, but I think that's going to come now. He's already shown that he can shoot the ball relatively well from the 3-point range. He might get back up to those 40% shooting years that he had in year 2, but I think that he's going to be a major part of this Pelicans team now that they traded away some of their younger players like Dyson Daniels. So Trey Murphy's my pick for the New Orleans Pelicans. The Charlotte Hornets. I got a lot of comments on my last video that they are not D tier and that they should be higher than that. They might be a play-in team. And you know what? Maybe I'll agree with you if LaMelo is healthy. And that's why I'm going to choose him as most improved for this team. And that's purely out of his availability. Availability is the most key part of LaMelo's game right now because we all know that he's a good player. But if he could stay healthy, that's what's going to propel this team to the next level. So I'm going to predict he's going to be healthy this year, and LaMelo is going to be the most improved for the Hornets. Next up, H-Town. This is the first rookie that I'm going to give props to because of Summer League. I'm going to pick Reed Shepherd. Now, when I'm talking about improvement, I'm talking about from Summer League to the NBA or from college to the NBA because it's their first season. But I think Reed Shepherd has shown way more than I expected him to, honestly. He reminds me of kind of like a young Steph Curry because we all knew that he was a good shooter in the draft. But he's shown so much more than I thought he would, consistently dropping 20 points or more in the Summer League. in all of the games, I think. So he's been really, really good, and I think he's going to be really good for the Rockets. More good than we probably expect from a rookie in his first year. The Miami Heat, I think a lot of people would choose Jaime Jaquez Jr. for this one because he had such a good year last year, and he's probably just going to get better and better and better. But I'm actually going to choose Tyler Hero, and this might be a bad pick because he's been consistently averaging 20 points per game for the Miami Heat, but he only played 40 games or 42 games last season. So I think that in playing more games, he's going to average more and also try to show that he's more than just a 20-point scorer who can come off the bench. Chicago Bulls. For this one, I'm going to choose another rookie in Matas Buzelis, just because I think he adds a different element to the Chicago Bulls that they probably didn't have before. Now that they've signed and traded away DeMar DeRozan to the Sacramento Kings, and they probably will trade Zach LaVine or Nikola Vucevic at some point. So I think Matas Buzelis is going to come in and have a big opportunity in big role, maybe even bigger than he had in college. The Brooklyn Nets. For this one, I'm partly saying for fun because Ben Simmons is my pick, but all jokes aside, I think that at some point, he either has to start playing more games, showing that he can be the Ben Simmons that he was in Philly, or he's just going to be cut out of the league eventually, because there's no way he can just keep getting money for what the production that he's giving, the limited amount of games that he's playing. So I really think that at some point he has to prove himself, and he knows that too. So kind of a wild pick, I guess, but Ben Simmons is my pick for the Brooklyn Nets. The OKC Thunder, one of the most exciting teams and up-and-coming teams in the league. I could easily pick Shea for this because I think he's going to be an MVP candidate this year, but I'm actually going to pick Lou Dort because he was a core part, he has been a core part of this team for all of his years in the NBA, but I feel like he was kind of overshadowed by a lot of the younger players last year, and I think he kind of wants to solidify his role even more with the OKC. We know his defense is good, but I think that the offensive part of his game is going to keep coming around. He's only 24 years old, he's still young, but I believe in Lou Dort. For the Warriors, this one's a little bit of a hard pick because you could pick Kuminga and say that he's going to continue that leap, which I do believe he's going to do, but the more kind of underrated pick that I think I'm going to choose is Brandon Podziemski, just because he's had a lot of good basketball experiences this summer in playing with the USA Select team for the Olympics, and then also in Summer League he's shown really good flashes of what he can be, and they even said that they believe he can be a future All-Star, which I don't know if he's going to be all that, but I believe that he's going to be better than he was in his rookie year, even though he was already really, really good for a rookie. I think he's going to take that next step because he just has so much confidence, so much motivation to keep getting better and better. The world champs are next, the Boston Celtics, and I'm going to choose Kristaps Porzingis, just because he showed that dominant quarter in the NBA Finals where he was just unstoppable, shooting over everyone, just dominant. And I think that he's going to take that and run with it in the next season. He only averaged 20 points per game, which we know he can average more, like 23 points per game, 22 points per game. But now that he's got that taste of a championship, I think that he's really going to want that even more and really contribute to this Boston Celtics team more than he did in his first season with the team. Next, we have the LA Lakers. And for this one, you could easily say Dalton Connect maybe because he's had such a good summer league. Some people might even say Bronny because there's such low expectations because of all the nepotism talks and all that stuff. But I'm going to say Austin Reeves, just because there were so many expectations for him coming into last season. He only really got slightly better, 15 points per game versus 13 in this previous season. He had a worse three-point shooting year by 2% from 38% to 36%. So I think that he's going to try to show everyone that he's still the Austin Reeves that people should have so much hope and optimism and expectations for. So he's my pick for the LA Lakers. And lastly, we have the Orlando Magic. And there are so many young players on this team that you could say are going to be better next season because it's such a young team, but I'm going to pick Jonathan Isaac. And that's because we already know that he's an extremely good defender, sometimes statistically one of the best defenders in the NBA. But he's not been healthy for the majority of his career. We know he had those almost 3 seasons off because of injury. Last season he only played 58 games, but I think that he's slowly getting back into the groove and is finally hitting his prime at 26 years old. And he's going to be one of, if not the best defender in the league with Victor Wembanyama and other players like Rudy Gobert. So really high on Jonathan Isaac. Probably not the most obvious pick for the Orlando Magic, but... And that is one player from every team that I think is going to be the most improved on their respective team next season. If you agreed with me, if you disagreed with me, make sure to leave it below in the comments. Make sure to like, subscribe, and also check out some of my other videos on this channel about basketball. I'll see you in the next one.